Hello, this is a short video that will explain a possible lesson you could use as you begin Common Task 10.3 with your classes. Common Task 10.3 asks students to produce an argument in response to a complex issue. And one of the requirements of the Common Task is that students be able to identify what makes a complex issue complex in the first place. By the end of this process, the students will have produced, from what is essentially a blank piece of paper, a map or a graphic organizer of all the questions and issues that make up a particular larger issue. It's important to realize that this product is not going to be mapping an argument that an author is making, but instead the larger issue that an author might be responding to. This task can be difficult without guidance, so it's highly recommended that you model this for the class, and then later you ask the students to do it on their own or in groups. You'll begin by modeling it with a particular issue, and then you can assign a new issue for the students to map on their own. The things you want to stress are the following. Complex issues are composed of many smaller questions. Each of these smaller questions can produce multiple answers. And finally, reasonable people can disagree about whether those answers are good or bad. The students will see this pretty quickly by using this method of mapping out the conversation around a complex issue. This resource is available for you in the document we've posted. What it asks you to do is to take a conversation that a class has concerning a complex issue, for example, how to achieve racial equality in America, and breaks it into the component parts of core questions, responses to those core questions, and then comments that could be either pro or con in response to those responses. For example, if we were talking about how to improve education, and somebody asked the question, how could we get better teachers in the classroom? One response to that question might be, we could raise their salaries. Another response might be, we should use more standardized testing to see which teachers produce the highest test scores. Obviously, for each of those responses, you could think of multiple pro and con positions that would correspond to each of them. By the end of it, you'll end up with a series of questions, responses, pros and cons that could essentially go on forever. The students will quickly see how complex an issue can become. What you have here is also available as a resource. You can print this out and simply give it to every student in the class to show a sample of how a complex issue could be written as a flowchart. As you can see here, the question, how do we increase racial equality, could be answered in many ways. Two of them might be to provide more opportunity, or to have more mixed communities so people can talk to each other more. For each of these, you could see some possible objections or even new questions that arise from that response, and the process goes on. So one approach would be to raise the question of how we increase racial equality, pass out this sheet to your students, and show them the way that the complexity evolves as you break down the question. Another more advanced way to do this would be to raise an issue with your class and have them have a conversation while you, the teacher, record behind the scenes their responses and later organize them into a flowchart like this, which you could then distribute the next class or possibly show on the Promethean board or draw up on the dry erase board. But however you do it, it's very important that students have a model so that when you throw a new question in front of them, they can work either in groups or on their own to generate something that looks like this. Again, the blank versions of this paper are available as a download that you can print out and hand to every student. The point of this activity is to show students that complex issues are composed of many different little questions. Students should be anticipating all the different ways that people might respond to the answers to these questions, which will illustrate very clearly for them what it is that makes up a complex issue. Teachers could have this stretch over multiple classes if they wish, depending on how you want to present students with the issues that they'll be looking at. One of the resources we've posted as part of this lesson sequence for Common Task 10.3 includes a chart where we've uploaded multiple texts that correspond to different issues that might interest your students. We hope you found this useful. Thanks a lot.